Hello explorers, thanks for joining us again and welcome back to another exciting and informative video on our YouTube channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. For those of you who follow our channel, you notice we focused on informative and educating content about Africa. Today we are looking at how France loots its former colonies. Today I will be able to illustrate to you how France continues to loot its colonies in the continent of Africa. We try to stay on those issues. However, while doing our research, we always stumble across things that will haunt us at night if we are not able to bring that to our viewers. You no longer wonder why French presidents and ministers are sometimes greeted by protest when they visit former French colonies in Africa, even if the protests are about other issues. Though what other issues could be more important than this one that I'm going to discuss with you? In this episode, I will encourage you to watch this video to the end so you have a better understanding as to how France loots its former colony. So without any much delay, let's just dive straight into it. The first method at which France loots its former colonies is through the monetary and bankruptcy options. Just before France conceded to African demands for independence in 1960, it carefully organized its former colonies, looking at the CFA zone in a system of compulsory solidarity, which consisted of obliging the 14 African states to put 65% of their foreign currency reserves into the French treasury, plus another 20% for financial liabilities. This means those 14 African countries only ever have access to 15% of their own money. If they need more, they have to borrow their own money from the French and at a commercial rate, and this has been the case since 1960. If you believe this or not, it's even getting worse. France has the first right to buy or reject any natural resource found in the land of the Francophone country. So even if African countries can get better prices elsewhere, they can't sell to anybody until France say it doesn't need the resources. In the accord of government contracts, French companies must be considered first. Only after that can those countries look elsewhere. It doesn't matter if the CFA countries can obtain better value for money from another countries. Presidents of CFA countries that have tried to leave the CFA zone have had political and financial pressure put on them by successive French presidents. If you look at this, it traps African countries also of not escaping the CFA zone. Thus, those African states and French taxpayers, in looking at context, they basically become taxpayers to the French state, taxed at a staggering rate. Yet the citizens of countries even French don't even have access to public goods and services their money helps to pay. CFA zones are solicited to provide private funding to French politicians during elections in France. While doing our research, according to an interview that was granted by Professor Mamadou Koulibaly, the Speaker of the Ivorian National Assembly and Professor of Economics and author of the book The Servitude of the Colonial Park, and also won't mind also enlightening his experience with regards to this particular park. Considering this particular park that the professor talks about, it is a colonial park that set up common currency for the Francophone countries and the CFA franc zone, which demands that each of the 14 CFA member countries must deposit 65% plus 20% for financial liabilities, making dazzling total of over 85% of their foreign exchange reserve in operations account at the French treasury in Paris, France. The African nations therefore have only access to 15% of their own money for national development in any given year. If they are in need of extra money, as they always are, they have also to borrow that at about 65% in French treasury at commercial rates. And that is not all. There is a cap on the credit extended to each member countries, equivalent to 20% of their public revenue in the preceding year. So if the countries need to borrow more than 20%, too bad, they cannot do it. Amazingly, the final say on the CFA arrangement belongs to the French treasury, which invests the African countries' money in its own name on the Paris Bourse, the stock exchange in France. Looking forward, ownership of natural resources has been a contentious issue within the African continent for years. It is also the colonial pact that demands that France has the first right to buy or reject any natural resources found in the land of Francophone country. So even if the African countries could get better prices elsewhere, they cannot sell to anybody until France says it does not want to buy those natural resources. If you are new to this channel, we will encourage you to subscribe and share our videos to your different network. It is again the colonial pact that demands that in an award of contracts and government contracts to African countries, France companies should be considered first, only that the African looks elsewhere then. It doesn't matter if African can obtain a better value for money elsewhere. French companies come first and most often get the contracts. Currently, and looking at previous time, there is an awkward case in Abidjan, for example, in previous years, where before the elections, former President Gbagbo government wanted to build a third major bridge to link the central business district called Plateau. This is the rest of the city, linking that part of that amazing African capital, from which it's separated by the lagoon. By colonial park tradition, the contract must go to France company, which independently or accidentally had quoted an astronomical price to be paid in euros or in US dollars. Moving forward, from parliament resources, not happy at the time, the Gbagbo government sought a second quote from the Chinese, who offered to build the bridge at the half price quoted by France company, and waited for this. Payment will be in cocoa beans, of which Côte d'Ivoire is the world's largest producer. But unsurprisingly, the French said no, you can't do that. Moving forward, overall, the colonial pact gives France a dominant and privileged positions over Francophone Africa. But in Côte d'Ivoire, the jewel of the former French possessions in Africa, the French are overwhelmingly dominant. Outside parliament, almost all the major utilities, water, electricity, telephone, transport, ports, and major banks are run by French companies or French interests. The same story is found in commerce, construction, and also agriculture. The Central African Republic, François Hollande China Oil, pointing at that. In short, the colonial pact has created a legal mechanism under which France obtains special place in political and economic life of its former colonies. If you like videos like this, we will encourage you to give us a thumbs up and share our videos to your different network. The big question that many people are asking here is, why does this continues in the continent? In what meaningful way can any of the 14 countries are said to be independent? This is a big question that no one is talking about. If it isn't illegal and international crime, then what is this called? In looking at different ways, what is going to take for its states to indigent servitude to end? Because this is also stealing by tricks from African countries. However, how much have the CFA country lost as a result of this 50 years counting relationship with France and the agreement? Remember, they had to borrow their own money from the French commercial rate. Do French people know they are living off the wealth of African countries? Have they been so far over half a century? And if they know this, do they even give it a damn? So to point out, however, when will France start paying back money they took out from the continent of Africa? Not only directly from the interest on cash reserves and loans these countries have had to take out, but also on lost meaningful earnings from natural resources. The countries sold to France belongs below market rates, as well as lost earnings resulting from award contracts to French companies, when other countries or contractors could have done the same job at a less price. Does any such agreement exist between Britain and its former colonies, or did they really let go when they left the continent of Africa? Hopefully, we've been able to inform you with regards to how France continued to loot its colonies in Africa. If you are from one of those African countries that you feel that this is an issue that has been affecting your country, we would like to know in the comment section. Also, if you feel that something needs to be done with regards to this particular challenging issue facing the continent's French-speaking countries, We would also like to hear from you. For now, I want to thank you for watching The Explorer. Hopefully you can watch some of our other amazing videos on our YouTube channel. We are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.